How you going, guys? Hybrid here. Do you enjoy playing highly mechanical champions that have insane mobility and 1v9 potential? Well, today I'm going to tell you every single thing you need to know before playing the most broken jungler in the game, Naafiri, so buckle up and let's jump straight into it.
There is no alpha, there is only the pack.
The first thing to talk about is obviously the setup. I'm sure some of you have seen people talk about taking Ignite over Flash, and honestly, I think it's fine to do so just because Naafiri is so mobile, she doesn't even need Flash to operate. However, in saying that, I personally just think Flash is super OP, and I think, like on Karthus, Ignite is just unneeded training wheels for an already broken champion. So I would still stick with Flash, but if you are playing vs champions who are OP early, for example Volibear or Shinjal, Ignite can definitely be better. Regarding runes, your primary rune page is always going to be Conqueror, Triumph, Ability Haste, and Coup de Grace, because you're always in extended fights, which is beneficial for Conqueror, and your dogs will help you keep Conqueror active. Some people take Cut Down, but in my opinion, Coup de Grace is just much better, because oftentimes on Naafiri, you're executing people with your Q and ult, so you use Coup de Grace more so than Cut Down. For secondary runes, I like to take Domination second over Inspiration for two main reasons. First, as talked about earlier, Naafiri has so much mobility that she doesn't even really use Flash well, so Cosmic Insight is just not that good for her. The second reason is that because Naafiri has a mega power spike on her first item, which is going to be Eclipse, being able to take Treasure Hunter to get to your first item and power spike earlier is just way more valuable than free boots and allowing you to dominate the Rift like the Menace you are. Now onto items. I'm going to be honest, I've seen a billion people talk about different builds, but in my opinion, the build order is quite simple. Eclipse and Cleaver will always be your first two items. You can either build Shojin third for damage, Death Stance third for survivability, or Edge of Night third if enemies have abilities that can easily cancel your ult or pick you off like a Blitzcrank Q or Syndra E. Once you have Death Stance either as your third or fourth item, you can look to build Spirit Visage and finally Sterak's or GA. On top of this, there are some other situational items which are good on Naafiri, such as Hex Drinker, or even better, Serpent's Fang against enchanters like Janna, or against champions like Iron, which you'll see a lot. And I've said a lot, and what I've said is kind of confusing, so I made a cheat sheet, as you would have seen on screen, and this sheet can be found in my Discord, where you can ask me and one of the most supportive and pleasant communities questions at any time, so make sure to join that. Now onto abilities. Naafiri's abilities are pretty complicated to describe, and I'm sure my accent won't help, so I'm going to apologize in advance for speedrunning it. Naafiri's passive automatically spawns backmates, which help attack Naafiri's targets. Naafiri's Q throws a dagger that inflicts bleed to all enemies it hits. This ability has two charges, and if the target is already bleeding from the first dagger, the second dagger will do extra damage and heal Naafiri. This ability will be the bread and butter for your damage throughout the game, and you'll be able to spam it for poke or spam it to just kill targets. Naafiri's W makes her untargetable for 1 second and increases the amount of packmates she has temporarily, whilst also gaining movement speed and attack damage. This ability is really the identity of Naafiri's kit, as it allows for her to go for reckless frontline plays and still stay safe with the invulnerability. Importantly, this ability also makes you invulnerable to turret shots, so it's a very good ability to use when looking for dives. Naafiri's E is a short dash that deals AoE damage around her. This ability allows you to pass through walls, and slow cooldown is what makes you extremely mobile throughout the game, both offensively and defensively. Finally, Naafiri's ult is a point and click dash that deals extra damage based on how many packmates she has, and if she secures the takedown within short duration of casting this ability, she will reveal all nearby enemy champions and have the opportunity to cast it again, but this time with a bonus shield as well. Your ult here is what gives you easy access to the enemy backline in fights, and if you can cast your ult a second time, you tend to almost always want to, because the shield allows you to pretty much get another kill even if you don't have much HP. Importantly, your ult dash is not unstoppable, which means that abilities like Nautilus Q or Aura Charm can interrupt it, so make sure to be extremely patient and wait for these abilities to be offline before you cast your ult. Before I move on from abilities, I just want to discuss how you want to approach teamfights. In my opinion, Naafiri can kill frontline champions, but what Naafiri truly excels at is diving onto the enemy backline, annihilating them, and still not taking a single lick of damage. So you tend to want to make sure you don't begin the fight in the middle of the fight, and actually find flanks that allow you to ult onto the backline, followed by Q, E, and then Q again, and W anywhere in the combo you see fit, where you need to dodge the important CC or burst. The reason why you want to use your abilities in this order is because your Q is not an easy ability to hit, and ulting in makes it very simple and straightforward to hit not only one Q, but both Qs. The reason you E before the second Q is obviously to do more damage, so your Q execute also does more damage. And the reason you W after your ult is because even though casting W before ulting will make your ult do more damage as you have more packmates, that damage is extremely negligible, and you would rather save it to dodge important CC or bursts like Nautilus ult or Kiana ult. Now onto the early game. In my opinion, since Naafiri spikes hard on Eclipse and level 6, her early game is pretty simple. You always want to do full clears and finish your first clear by around 320. In terms of clearing camps, make sure you throw your second Q instantly, because even though your second Q is an execute, it does not go on CD till you throw. So make sure you keep smashing that Q button all throughout the clear. Outside of your Q, also make sure you're always Wing right before you reach the camps, as the increase in pack mates will fasten your clear speed dramatically. Finally, make sure you E over big walls such as Raptor Wall from mid lane, or Red Buff Wall, so you can really maximize the clear speed. With regards to ganks, I will say that on Naafiri, you only want to gank if it's a very obvious free kill, or you're on tempo where all your camps are down and you have free time. The reason for this is because even though you have a lot of damage, you really have no CC to lock down target, and without your ult, it's just harder for you to get onto enemies and stick to them. It is because of this, I would also recommend pathing to the lane which has most CC to set up ganks for you. Finally, regarding scuttle fights or skirmishes in the river, you're probably going to be stronger most of the time, but just make sure you use your W wisely around these skirmishes and not just spam for movement speed and damage, as the invulnerability often matters more than the damage you get from increased pack mates. The mid game is where Naafiri truly excels. After your second back, you'll be clearing much faster, and you should be very aggressive on the map. This includes both ganking and taking objectives. I will say, in the current meta, grubs and drakes are just very good to have, so make sure you stack them and try to only look for ganks if you have ult up, because you really just aren't that good at ganking without it. Outside of ganking and doing objectives, one thing you should try to consciously remind yourself to do is look for invade opportunities, because since you have insane mobility from an E that allows you to jump through walls, you can go for invades easily and safely, more so than any other jungler in the game. So make sure you really capitalize on your insane mobility. Lastly, by far the most important tip I can give you is to make sure you always look for dives with Naafiri, because your W is just completely OP in tower diving, as you can use it last second before a turret shot hits to reset turret aggro, which makes it like the turret is non-existent when you're going for these dives. Now into the late game. Since we already somewhat talked about teamfighting earlier, I really just want to focus on the macro aspect of Naafiri's late game. Since Naafiri's most unique feature is her insane mobility, you want to make sure you do not simply AFK mid lane and look to teamfight. Instead, what you want to do is make sure you always look for picks on side that allow for you to force Baron or more high percentage fights because of your numbers advantage. Also, just like in the mid game, don't be afraid to take more reckless pathings when looking for these plays, as your E and W will always bail you out. Finally, let's talk about when you should pick Naafiri. I think Naafiri fits best when your team has a lot of CC to set her up and make fights easy for her. So champions like Syndra, Galio, Rel, and Naut are all extremely good with Naafiri. In terms of bad matchups, I think Naafiri struggles vs champions like Bel'Veth, who are one of the few champions that can match her in mobility, or champions like Volibear and Xinjiao, who can bully her in the early game. I will say that even though these matchups are a little bit more rough, I still think Naafiri is perfectly fine to them, so if Naafiri is open, she is so strong if you can play her that you can always feel free to blind it. Okay, that's the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like and sub buttons. Make sure you join the Discord, follow me on Twitch, and if you have Amazon Prime, feel free to chuck your boy that as well. Love you all, and peace. We out of here.